You read that correctly. The title and thumbnail is not a lie. The deck inside of this deck box has a 90% win rate across the last 5 in real life Pokemon card tournament events that I've attended. The deck in question is Miraidon EX, and I personally believe it is the best turbo Pokemon deck you can play right now, and I think I might have cracked the code on the perfect 60 to play, and I was actually one card off of what Azul used to win his most recent regional win with. Miraidon EX does get a pretty big nerf post-rotation, so we're gonna probably drop the deck completely or at least a little bit come post-rotation because we do lose a lot of key cards, which we're gonna get into later in this video, but we're still gonna try and make it work. I'm not gonna invest as much time and energy into Miraidon knowing that it's just not as competitively viable as some other decks, and there's a lot of new decks I want to try out like Hopsation. I also want to give Charizard Dragapult another try, and there's just a whole bunch of other new decks I want to try, and you know, it's a new format, so it's going to be a really fun, refreshing time. We'll be uploading a bunch of gameplay all throughout the week, so if you want to just hang out with your boy, vibe out to some Miraidon content, maybe pull me up on a second screen and just, you know, chill with me, then feel free to come through to any of those videos I post and feel free to subscribe. And I also did a small little restock on my eBay store. I'll leave my eBay linked down below too. Alright, enough chit chat. And a real quick surprise giveaway. We're giving away 4 holo play stamped electric generators. All you have to do to enter this giveaway is subscribe to the channel, hit the like button down below, and comment down below what's your main Pokemon TCG deck right now, or what are you looking forward to building post rotation. Here is my lucky Pikachu deck box, which usually contains my Miraidon deck. Some people have figured me out and they know I'm playing Miraidon just by seeing this deck box, so I think I gotta start switching up my moves. We're gonna show you guys the exact 60 card list along with a couple other options, some other cards you might want to consider putting into your Miraidon deck depending on your local scene. Maybe you have to tech for certain matchups or something like that. First things first, we got 2 copies of Miraidon EX, the mascot of this deck. You have a beefy 220 HP Pokemon that can also attack for 220 damage as well. You have the ability Tandem Unit, which says you can bench 2 lightning Pokemon from your deck, so this is really good at grabbing the exact attackers or setup Pokemon you want whenever Miraidon is available. Typical kind of play if you are going first or second, honestly, doesn't matter what turn you're going, but if you are able to play Area 0 on your particular turn, you're going to grab your Miraidon and grab your Pikachu along with your other Miraidon, and then use your other Miraidon to Tandem Unit some more Pokemon out. So it's like a big train of Tandem Unit. You have a really strong attack Photon Blaster for 2 lightning and a colorless. You do 220 damage, which is enough to knock out a lot of Pokemon like big basic EXs and big basic Vs. Next up, we have 2 copies of Iron Hands EX. This is our plan A, our main attacker of this deck, if we can try and get him set up. Our typical prize route we usually go for is 2-2-2. We'll start off by taking a 2 prize knockout with hands, another 2 prize knockout with hands, and if we can't use hands, we'll use Miraidon, and if we can't use Miraidon, we'll use Raikou. And then we'll typically close out with a big Raichu V attack at the end with Dynamic Spark. But our plan A is to set up our Iron Hands EX with the help of our Miraidon, our Electric Generators, and our Magneton. 230 HP is even beefier than Miraidon, which is nice to see. 2 attacks, you got Arm Press for double lightning and a colorless, 160, and you got Amp You Very Much for a lightning and 3 colorless for 120, and if you take a knockout with the Amp You Very Much attack, you can take a bonus prize card. So really great if you're playing into decks that have smaller basic or stage 1 Pokemon. Iron Hands gets to bully them, and that bonus prize card is very meaningful. Plan A attacker is Iron Hands. We want to set this baby up as quick as we can, but we do have a plan B as well, which is a very easy plan B to go for. We got Raikou V, another strong attacker that we're going to lose once rotation hits. 200 HP, 1 retreat cost, and the ability Fleet-Footed. You draw an extra card if it's in your active spot. But the big thing here is the Lightning Rondo attack. It does 20 damage base and 20 for each bench Pokemon on either side of the field. And of course, we're playing this Area 0 Stadium, which means our bench can go pretty wide very fast, meaning our Raikou V can hit some pretty high numbers. For example, if you have 5 bench spots all filled up and your opponent has 5 bench spots all filled up, you're going to be hitting for 220 damage for just 2 energy cards. Raikou V is amazing because of how easy it is to set up. It's very lethal. You just have to hit a generator for 1 energy, which is not all that hard to do. Attach an energy for turn, and you can start swinging and applying pressure with Raikou V. Now, ideally, you want to, knock out a small baby or Pokemon with Iron Hands, but if the scenario calls for it, Raikou V can be used to soften up a bit larger Basic V or Basic EX Pokemon. You can also use Raikou V to knock out for weakness Pokemon like Lumineon V and Squawkabilly and even Pidgeot EX. And the fact that, you know, a lot of board states have to go pretty wide, your opponent is going to inadvertently charge up your Raikou V's damage numbers, which is great. And if they try and play around it, you can always just fill up your bench even more, and there's even more damage modifiers in this deck to help get you to those really high numbers. It's also a great Sealstone target from time to time, but you ideally want to put on your Bravery Charm on Raikou because 200 HP is on the squishier side of things. Next up, we got Raichu V. This is another Pokemon alongside Raikou V we're going to really miss come rotation. Raikou V for its fast, aggressive nature and easy to pull off attacks, and just Raikou V is all around a great card. But Raichu V is a very strong card too we're going to lose because it is our big one-hit KO option for the deck. Being able to discard lightning energies for 60 damage each. Each lightning, 60. It's basically like a baby Raging Bolt. Raging Bolt stole this attack and made it a little more complicated because you need one fighting and one lightning. So Raichu V is lightning energies only, and it also has a really cool attack too, Fast Charge, which you don't really want to use too often. You don't really want to leave a 2-prize, a liability, or a 2-prizer in the active unless you're taking a knockout, but you do have the option, depending on the matchup, to use the Fast Charge attack, where you just get to search your deck, grab an energy, and throw it onto your Raichu V. So you get to apply some great pressure very early on into the game if you have to do so. Typically, Raichu V is going to be the last Pokemon we're attacking with for that finishing game knockout. It's usually going to be for like 300 plus damage on like a big stage 2 or something like that. And the fact that the attack is very easy to pull off just for 2 lightning energies. Again, all you have to do is hit a lightning generator, electric generator, attach return, or even explode a Magneton to accelerate those energies onto Raichu. And as long as you have additional energies on the board, your Raichu can scale to some pretty large numbers. Next up, we got Pikachu EX. Yes, we have the line of Pikachu EX and Raichu V here. However, Pikachu EX is not an attacker at all. However, it could be in the future. Maybe we play like a Galvantula style of build. But yeah, Pikachu EX has the Resolute Heart ability, which is very strong defensively. If it were to be knocked out, if it was full health, it just goes down to 10 HP remaining. You got 200 health, which isn't all that much, but the big thing here is the Terra typing. The Terra typing is what allows Miraidon and this Area 0 build to be so successful. You grab your Miraidon, you tandem out your Pikachu, which is your terrorized Pokemon, Terra Pokemon, and you play Area 0, therefore your Raikou V can hit some big numbers. You have the Topaz Bolt attack here, which you never use, 300 damage for a Grass, Lightning, and Metal energy. We do not play any other energies other than Lightning and a double turbo in this deck, so Pikachu EX is just never an attacker. It's purely a defensive powerhouse, and it allows your Raikou to again hit some large numbers, which is pretty important. Next up, we got Magnemite and Magneton. Now these cards are goated, but first off, let's talk about the Magnemite, because there are quite a few different Magnemites you can choose. There's 2 optimal Magnemites I believe you can pick from. This is the first one. I think this is the best out of all of them in my opinion. However, there's merits to playing the other Magnemites. So let's talk about this one here and the pros and the cons. You got 50 HP, so that's really weak. You can get destroyed by a Dusclops blowing itself up and knocking out your Magnemite, and yeah, 50 HP is just really low. However, the attack here is quite good, especially if you still want to apply pressure if you're not able to take a knockout. You got Magnetic Charge for 1 lightning, or well, basically 1 lightning energy. You're going to charge 2 basic lightning energy cards from your discard pile to one of your benched Pokemon. It's basically like a Squawkabilly EX's Motivate attack, just without the damage, and it's not a 2-prize liability. So at the end of the day, you know, if you're going to attack with your 1-prize Magnemite, you're giving up that 1 prize. You were going to give up 1 prize anyways when you exploded your Magneton for the ability, so there is a really good reason to play this Magnemite. Then we have the other, actually, let's get the other Magnemite. This one right here, which is 60 HP, and it has the attack Lightning Ball for 20 damage. 60 HP means that it's not going to get destroyed by a Dusclops blowing up, but also it allows you to attack for 20 damage plus 10 if you play the Zapdos, which we do play the Zapdos for Pokemon Go in this list, which means it's going to swing for 30 damage. So you can swing for 30 and knock out Bidoof potentially if it comes to it. You can also knock out other Pokemon like Pidgey, the 50 or 60 HP variant. You can also knock out a Roaring Moon that used Frenzy Gouging on the previous turn because it's going to go down to 30 health. You just swing in with this Magnemite to clean it up. But yeah, when we first introduced Magneton into this deck, this Magnemite was the first one I gravitated towards too. However, a lot of the top performing lists actually use this Magnemite instead, and I am a real believer of this Magnemite over the 60 HP one. Let's talk about the Magneton. Optimal artwork from the Elite Trainer box, by the way. We got Overvolt Discharge, just like Dusclops or Dusknoir, where you blow it up and give up a prize. You do damage counters. Well, Magneton doesn't do damage counters or anything like that. You just get to accelerate up to 3 lightning energies in your discard pile onto your lightning Pokemon specifically. So that makes it very easy for you to chain attacks of Iron Hands. Say they knock out your one Iron Hands, but you have your Magneton on the board. Well, those energies that were discarded along with those Iron Hands are just going to go back onto this new set of hands. The ability, again, also pairs very well with Miraidon's attack because it's 3 energy cost, so you have a guaranteed 220 damage here, guaranteed big damage with Raichu V this way as well. So there's your Magneton. Next up, we got Zapdos. This is a card that is flexible for a lot of players, depending on the meta, what you expect to see. I'm a big believer of including Zapdos into this list because it allows us to have an answer to Pokemon like Mimikyu, and it also is a 1 prize Pokemon outside of the Magnemite that we can also give up if we have to give up a 1 prizer Pokemon instead of leaving a 2 prizer in the active. The plus 10 damage that Zapdos does give your basic lightning Pokemon comes clutch in many scenarios, whether it's Miraidon needing to hit 230 damage, whether it's needing the extra 10 for your Raikou V to clean up a knockout, or even if you need to hit 310 with something like a Raichu V. That additional 10 damage is very good. And before, a big drawback of this card was the 2 retreat cost, but retreat cost doesn't really matter in this deck too much anymore because of Latias EX. Zapdos is the one card that is different from my list and Azul Garcia Griego's list that he won a regional with. Instead, he took out the Zapdos and he put in an extra lightning energy, making it 16 instead of 15. So if you know you're going to a locals or a tournament where you might expect to see some more Mimikyus, or maybe there's like Roaring Moons or Gouging Fires you have to worry about, or even Archaludon EX because you want to be able to use Ampy very much and hit for 130 on that little Duraludon for 130, then the Zapdos is quite good. But if you're not too concerned about those decks or those cards being at your local tournaments or wherever you go, then you can absolutely slot in a 16th lightning energy instead of the Zapdos. Now, another tech card you could also experiment with as well is Minior. If you're very scared of the stall matchup, Snorlax is historically one of the worst matchups for Miraidon EX, especially because we've gone down in the number of like item switch cards that we can use. Minior right here is a very great answer to Snorlax. You just have to attach an energy to it, it goes into the active, and then you can wapow those Snorlaxes with the help of Minior. Next up, we got Squawkabilly EX. We got 1 Squawk in here, goated card, amazing ability. Discard your hand, draw 6. You have the attack here, Motivate 2, which doesn't come up too often. And again, this is a big 2 prize liability, but the thing is, when your opponent bumps your Area Zero Stadium, this card, Lumineon V, are your first cards you can just discard, so you never get punished for using such a strong ability. All you really need to see in an opening hand to know it's going to be a good time is a Miraidon and a Nest Ball, or a Squawkabilly and a Nest Ball, and you're going to be having a great game. Alright, so besides Squawkabilly, other support Pokemon include Latias EX, amazing card that's going to give all of our Pokemon, all of our basic Pokemon in play, free retreat. It's essential for this deck, being able to swap into the exact attacker that you want to hit with, and also very helpful so your opponent can't, get your Iron Hand stuck stranded in the active. So we got Latias EX at 1 copy. Our other psychic support Pokemon here is Mew EX, another very strong Pokemon. 180 HP. Once per turn, you can draw until you have 3 cards in your hand. So we often go to a very low hand size with this deck, or we can force ourselves to go to a very low hand size. So restart, really good ability. Then we also have the attack here, Genome Hacking, which is great for 3 colorless, or basically 1 lightning and 1 DTE. You get to copy your opponent's attack. So Mew EX is our other answer to Mimikyu. However, if Mimikyu has a mist energy on it, then copying the Ghost Eye attack does nothing. On top of that, Mew EX has free retreat, so it's also another card you're always happy to see. Next up, we got Rotom V, a really cool card that really picked up in popularity in the Prismatic Evolutions format, a little bit in the Surging Sparks format, but if you are going first, having the Rotom V, you can tandem unit out your Rotom very easily with the help of Miraidon. Being able to use instant charge to end your turn is very strong, meaning your next turn is going to be even stronger than had you not brought out the Rotom V. Again, this is another card too that you can use your Force Heal Stone to attach to, and you can also just discard it right away if your opponent bumps your stadium and you have over 5 Pokemon. You have to go down to down to 5 on your bench. Rotom V can just kick rocks. Now, on the note of going first or second, I believe going second is always correct right now for Miraidon, just because we want to have that very aggressive turn where we're able to play our Arven and play our generators and you know, have a really strong turn and not have to worry about item lock. The great thing about Miraidon EX is that it's a deck that doesn't really have to worry too much about item lock, because as long as we have one attacker set up, like a Raikou or an Iron Hands, we can just keep smacking them. And then eventually we'll have our generators for the late game where they're more likely to hit as well. So going second is ideal with this particular version of Miraidon, but the other version that has Prime Catcher and Double Magneton, you might want to go first for that instead, because we really want to capitalize on setting up those Magnemites to evolve into Magneton. But yeah, that's another big benefit of Miraidon. It's a deck that doesn't care too much if it's going to go first or second, because if we're going first, that means we're able to get that additional attachment before your opponent does. We get that first early attachment. We have the Rotom V capability. We also have the chance to set up the Magnemite as well to evolve into Magneton. So going first, that's the game plan, but going second, we're gonna swing instead. Next up, we got Iron Bundle. Iron Bundle at 1 copy, a really strong single price Pokemon too that we can just give up if the time comes. We got the Hyper Blower ability. If it's on your bench, you can send it to your discard pile and gust your opponent's active Pokemon out of the way. So this means that you can swing into a 2-prizer or a 1-prizer that you really want to hit depending on the scenario. Your opponent gets to pick the Pokemon, but in a lot of cases, it's going to be a Pokemon you do want to hit. And of course, we are able to recycle this card's ability if we really need to by putting it back into the deck later on. And actually, now that I think about it, my list was 2 cards off of Azul's. We play Super Rod instead of Night Stretcher, but we'll talk about that later. Next up, we got Lumineon V, another strong Pokemon, of course, for its ability only. We got Luminous Sign. Play it onto your bench, you grab a supporter. It's usually going to be Arven early game, or it's going to be Boss's Orders late game. It all depends on the scenario, and it's one of the first cards you're going to discard once your opponent bumps your Area 0 Stadium. As you guys know, Fezandipiti is one of the best support Pokemon in the game. 210 HP. It's an actual Pokemon that can attack from time to time if need be. I've actually taken knockouts time after time with the DTE and attachment to go 80 on people's Pokemon. But yeah, we're playing it here for the Flip the Script ability. If your Pokemon was knocked out on the previous turn, you get to draw 3 cards with the Fez. So this combo right here is insane for the draw engine of the deck. You got Mew to draw up to 3, it got Fleet-Footed to draw an additional card, and you got Fez for an additional 3, which means you can draw up to 7 cards off of a no card hand at the start of your turn, essentially. So very strong cards, and yeah, Fez is just goated in every single deck out there. Next up, let's get to the energy count. Our version of Miraidon runs 15 lightning energy. This is pretty much the minimum energy count for lightning a lot of players have gone with. So 15 lightning, and then we got 1 double turbo energy, which is very handy if we're going to need to use Forest Seal Stone to lock in that Ampy Very Much attack. You go Seal Stone for DTE, really great as well for being able to attack with Mew EX and Fezandipiti EX. Now you could, if you wanted to, flex around with the energy count. You could potentially go down 1 more lightning to a 2nd double turbo energy, but I think 15 lightning with 1 DTE is the sweet spot. And again, Azul's list that won the regionals ran 16 lightning instead of 15. He just cut the Zapdos instead. Next up, we got 2 copies of Area 0 Underdepths. This is a stadium that only activates if you have a Terra Pokemon on your side of the field, which again is why we have the Pikachu here, and we have the Miraidon to quickly search out the Pikachu with ease. The second that your Pikachu does get knocked out or just removed from play, your bench has to go down to a 5 Pokemon bench. So that's, again, one of the best reasons we have Lumineon V, Squawk, and Rotom in here is all these 2-prize liabilities you can just wipe away from the board the second your stadium gets bumped. And Area 0 Underdepths, if you guys don't know, it allows your bench size to go up to 8 Pokemon, which is massive. And again, it's 20 damage for each Pokemon on the bench for your Raikou V's attack. So 2 Area 0s. And I'm actually selling a gold one on my eBay store. These are the 3 tools you're going to use in Miraidon EX. We got Forest Seal Stone. Every deck has to have at least 1 Forest Seal Stone in it. It's so good. You have so many V targets as well you can choose from. Typically, you're going to want to put onto your Lumineon V, your Rotom, or your Raichu. Next up, we got Rescue Board. Sometimes we don't have access to Latias for the free retreat or a Switch Cart, so being able to use our Arven or our Secret Box to grab a rescue board to just make like an instant free retreater is really useful. It's really good if it goes on to Raikou V as well, because if your Pokemon does get knocked out, you have to promote your Pokemon. You can throw this onto the Raikou V, which means you can get that guaranteed fleet-footed off as well. You'll also want to put Rescue Board onto Pokemon like Latias EX from time to time if you know your opponent is playing cards like Klefki or Fluttermane, where it turns off your ability for your Latias, and they try and do like some sort of gust stall play. And then last but not least, we got Bravery Charm here as well at 1 copy. This golden chicken nugget is what saves the day in a lot of cases, preventing your Miraidon, your Raikou V, your Iron Hands to get instantly 1-hit KO'd by your opponent's Pokemon. Bravery Charm is a goated card in the list. Next up, let's get to the supporter cards. We have 4 copies of Arven to kick things off. Arven is a goated card. It's in so many decks. You're always going to typically grab an Electric Generator and then an amazing tool of your choice to keep the train rolling. It'll be maybe a Force Seal Stone, so you can grab your Secret Box and then grab another tool and some more goodies with it. Arven is so good. However, with the rise of item lock decks, with Badoo running around, if you aren't able to play Arven, or you play Arven but you grab a useless Electric Generator, it does feel kind of bad sometimes. So in testing online and in person, I have also been experimenting with a one-off copy of Iono in place of an Arven, or even relieving 2 Arvens from the list for 2 Ionos, or 1 Iono, 1 Professor's Research. So Iono and Professor's Research, those are the other 2 go-to supporter cards for Miraidon, but typically you're going to play for Arven. There's a lot of games that I find where if it comes down to late game and you had like a Iono to just save your butt by the end of the game, that Iono is the reason you win in some cases. So we don't have Iono, we're really going more all in on the aggressiveness of Miraidon. Most of the time your opponents are not going to expect any hand disruption from a Miraidon list, so having that sneaky Iono is very, very good. And there's a lot of times too, honestly, where you play Arven and you can't even grab a tool card, or there's like nothing really of value that you want to grab for an item card. You're just using Arven to play a supporter for turns sometimes. So yeah, turn 1 Arven is goated, but there's a lot of times too where you're like, I just wish this Arven was not an Arven. So maybe you want to play Iono. Next up, we got 3 copies of Boss's Orders. Do not play any less than 3. If you do, you're crazy. 4 used to be the number that Landon Kettler had in his regional winning list. However, we've gone down to 3. Boss's Orders lets you pick which Pokemon you're going to attack into next, or stall if it comes down to it. And yeah, being able to gust what you need, so you can use Ampy very much with Iron Hands, or take out a big Pokemon that you need to hit when you need to. Boss's Orders helps get you there. Of course, we have ways to search it out. We got Lumineon V, and we also have Secret Box, which we're going to show you later in the deck. So you can always also Secret Box for Boss's Orders. Next up, item cards. Our deck has so many basic Pokemon in it. So we have 4 copies of Nest Ball here for absolute maximum consistency. It's just so good seeing a ball, like literally any ball card in your opening hand is like a huge W. And so we have so many balls in our deck for Nest Ball. Next up, we got 1 Hisuian Heavy Ball. If you notice our Pokemon count, there's a lot of one-off Pokemon. And that's because we need them for different reasons. So having Heavy Ball allows us to get that Pokemon out of the prize cards, because sometimes that Pokemon being there could be the difference between a loss and a win. It's also very nice easing the burden of prize checking with the help of Hisuian Heavy Ball. Conserving your mental energy for what actually matters in the game other than prize checking is very, very useful. Sometimes you're going to want to play Arven for it, so you can grab something like a Squawkabilly, or maybe you need an answer to Mimikyu, so you have to grab a Zapdos out of the prizes. Heavy Ball is just really good. It's going to be a card we definitely miss when rotation hits. For the other ball card in the deck, we have 3 copies of Ultra Ball. Ultra Ball is also insanely strong, just being able to grab any Pokemon you want at the cost of 2 cards in your hand. Ideally, they're going to be lightning energies that you can do the fun combo where you discard 2 lightning energies, you grab the Magneton, and then evolve, and those energies that you use to grab your Ultra Ball with are going to come hit the board with the help of the Magneton's ability. It's also, again, very strong because you can use it to thin out your hand, grabbing cards like Mew, using your Mew ability for even more draw. You can always grab other, Pokemon like Fezandipiti. You can also grab Lumineon V to then grab a supporter. Ultra Ball is really, really good. And although we aren't playing too many evolution Pokemon, just having that discard capability on this, along with the grab the exact Pokemon you want, capability is just so good. Now at this time, our only form of energy acceleration other than Magneton that we're playing is the Electric Generator. So we got 4 copies of Electric Generator. Again, don't forget to enter the giveaway for these 4 Electric Generators we're giving away as well. And if you guys didn't know, this is the card that makes playing Pokemon Miraidon extra fun. You look at the top 5 cards of your deck, you see any lightning energies, and if they're lightning, you can put up to 2 onto your lightning Pokemon on your bench. So you want to thin out as much cards as you can as possible from your deck to really maximize those odds of your Electric Generators hitting. It really doesn't feel like it's all up to luck when you have so much resources available that you can use to thin out your deck. So if you sequence properly, if you play to all your outs, then these generators are going to really cook and be meaningful. Of course, you don't always need to play these the second you have them in your hand either. Sometimes it's just worth holding on to them later, so the chances of them hitting are much higher later on in the game, especially if you're trying to do like a surprise kind of like knockout. So like say you have a Raichu V hidden in your deck and you really need to pull out that surprise big Raichu V blow up, then you save the generator for that turn. You're going to 10 in the Raichu out and then play the generator. Now, generator is great, but we have some other items here that are also really good that also help the generator. We got Super Rod. So there is the argument to be made. You have Night Stretcher and you have Super Rod. Those are the 2 recovery cards that players can use right now. My argument here for Super Rod is we have Squawkabilly. There's times we're going to have to discard some pretty important cards, whether it be like a Magnemite or a Magneton piece. There's a lot of important cards that can get discarded from your deck, whether you're going to need to discard them for using Ultra Ball or Secret Box. So Super Rod is just really good to be able to put those Pokemon cards back into your deck. You can Super Rod in back like a Lumineon V and then Ultra Ball for it, or you can Super Rod your like Latias back into the deck and use Nest Ball to bring it out, or Super Rod Iron Bundle back into the deck so you can Nest Ball and then Gust. So Super Rod's just really good at that. You can even at times reuse Magnemite and Magneton and then tandem unit the Magnemite once again after exploding it on that same turn. Another reason to use it too for your Electric Generators, say you really need to hit that generator late game, well, you just play your Super Rod, you throw 3 lightning energies back into your deck, and those generators are surely going to cook. I think Super Rod has a lot more use cases other than Night Stretcher. Night Stretcher is great too, don't get me wrong. There's a reason why Night Stretcher is in Azul's regional winning list, and there's a reason why Night Stretcher is in a lot of other Miraidon players' list, and that's just because being able to instantly grab a Pokemon of your choosing from your discard pile and add it to your hand is very good. So you can go for the Night Stretcher for Lumineon V, or Night Stretcher for that Magneton that got discarded earlier. There's a lot of great uses for Night Stretcher, or just that guaranteed energy. Say you're desperate and you're down bad and you need to attach a single energy per turn. You can get a basic energy if so be it. But I really do think Super Rod is the superior choice to go with. And again, if you guys want to experiment with your supporter count, maybe throw in some researches, then having the Super Rod makes having to play those researches where you have to discard some important cards a little easier, a little less painful. Next up, we got Switch Cart. Switch Cart at 1 copy. We used to run more copies of Switch Cart. However, with the decline in Snorlax, it's not that scary to just run the 1. And again, we have Latias EX. Latias EX is so good. Just being able to use your Nest Ball to basically give all your Pokemon free retreat with the help of Latias is a great thing to see. Switch Cart also is very clutch for, you know, shaving off that 30 damage. There's some cases where you're playing against decks like Dragapult EX, where that 30 damage being healed off is very meaningful. Last but not least, the ace spec of the deck, we got Secret Box right here. You just grab, you know, Arven Generator, Area 0, and Sealstone or Charm, or your retreat pivot option if you don't want to grab the Latias. Like say you can't grab the Latias, but you have a 1 retreat Pokemon in the active, you can grab your escape board with the Secret Box or the Arven that you use to grab the Secret Box. But yeah, Secret Box has pretty much been the official goated ace spec for Miraidon. However, if you are a big believer of Prime Catcher, which honestly has a great argument as well, you know, just being able to gust up on demand from an item card the exact Pokemon you want to hit, plus retreat at the same time, Prime Catcher's goated as well. So if you want to see a Prime Catcher version of Miraidon EX, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that red button down below. I'll be posting a Prime Catcher double Magneton build later on in this week. Huge shout out again to my sponsor, Comfy Hobbies. If you guys want to buy any Pokemon cards, check them out with code SneakerTalk for 5% off. And you guys can click on screen to hang out some more, maybe watch some more Miraidon related content, some gameplay, maybe a regional tournament vlog. But I had a lot of fun talking with you guys about my favorite Pokemon card deck. I can't wait to hang out with you guys some more in a future video. Later. Peace.